John, can you hear me?
I hear you, Jim.
Awesome. Hey, what's up, guys? Hi, Scott.
Hey, Jim.
Hey, Chuck, what's up, man?
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good, buddy. How are you?
Very good.
Hey, Jim. Scott.
Yo. Hi, John. How are you, sir?
Pretty good. Pretty good. Life's good.
Good, good. Good.
I tried to talk to you a minute
Absolutely.
ago, Jim, but I don't think you could hear me yet. I think you're still signing on.
I can hear you, sir. How are you, Mayor?
Good. Good to see you.
Yes, thank you. You too.
Missed you last meeting.
Yeah, sorry, guys, but it was a awesome vacation that I wouldn't have traded for nothing.
Oh, good. Was that your hunting
Yeah.
trip?
Oh no. We went to the lake and did some crazy surfing for a week.
Very cool.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Hi, Barb. How are you? Good to see you. Let's see. We're still waiting on those other two fellas that usually sign on last but not least. Hi, Laura. How are you?
Hey, not too bad. Mike, how are you doing?
Good.
Thanks for having us, by the way.
Absolutely.
How are things going downtown?
I think everybody's really enjoying it and like it. We had some comments on our meeting this morning that even though a business was down in sales that they usually have, they really like what's going on. And they think that even being down on sales some this year, that as people started finding out about it in the future, that it would be very successful to continue this. We're just gonna have to figure out if we're gonna do it year round or if we're gonna do it, just in the summer and how that all pans out. Of course, that will also fall back on what our restrictions and what our guidance says over the next several months.
But just think you could have a new Christmas holiday event that would like make what they do in Georgetown look like, very little.
Oh, we're friends. We're friends with Georgetown. Did you say all year Christmas?
No, just a special thing at Christmas. We've got to give Nancy Hale a run for her money.
I was going to say, if you said all year Christmas, you could have come into my restaurant a couple of months ago. We used to have all year Christmas here. We don't have it anymore. We took down we had a holiday tree that we changed every month. And it's gone now. Do you believe that, Jim? That Christmas tree's done?
No way, really?
Yeah.
Just time for something else, huh?
After almost 3 months closed, it was time for a little change.
There you go. Well, that was kind of an icon, man.
And because he knows it was. It was. We have already questioning us about it. Hello, Art. Good to see you.
Good to see everyone.
Here.
Art, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing well. How about you, boss?
I'm good, buddy. Thank you.
Good. They keeping you busy on the highways?
Oh, yeah. It's insane out there.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
A lot of insane people in this state.
Yep. It's green flag racing 24 hours a day, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's see. We're still missing Bob. Is the only one we're missing?
He's coming right now. That was him on the phone.
Okay.
Does anybody know where Elephant Butte Mountain is in Evergreen?
Yes, sir. It's in
Yeah,
Whittier.
it's over by King Murphy.
It's where?
It's over by King Murphy, Art.
Okay, does anybody know where King Murphy is? I'm not familiar with that area. I
I'd
guess
say
it's
Upper Bear Creek.
Bear
Yeah,
Creek. So
No,
is
No,
that?
no, man.
Everybody's talking.
It's
Is the elementary school on the east end of county. We have 3 elementary schools in Clear Creek County. We have 2.
What is Witter Gulch?
Yeah.
Witter Gulch and Circle K.
Is that fairly far from Highway 73 and Highway 85? They're in the, like, it's between where Evergreen kind of ends and Conifer kind of starts.
So do you know where Stagecoach Boulevard is, where Big R Hardware and stuff
Yeah,
is?
yeah. I do.
All right. So you head west up that way, and you go down in through that subdivision, Greystone and all that.
Okay.
That's where that is.
Okay. The reason I'm asking is quite a fire there, and my granddaughter and daughter live in Evergreen, so I'm just getting a little concerned.
Sure. I was the first graduating class out of King Murphy, bud.
Really?
Oh,
Yeah.
King Murphy, huh?
Yeah, absolutely.
Man, I don't see your nose stuck up in the air.
Oh, you sound like my wife. She said, I don't see your nose stuck up in the air. Crystal's doing the happy dance right now because that's what she always says to me, man.
All right. Well, it's 5:32. Let's get started on our work session. Welcome, everybody. We've got a little bit of time to get through this, but it sounds like some of it will be, could be a little lengthy, but we'll get through it. So there's some people on that. Cooper, I know who Cooper is. Who is patron 5?
Hey everyone, I'm Holly Grant, the program coordinator for the Clear Creek County Library District.
Oh, okay. And are you sure that's not Patron 5?
Patron number 5? No, it's patron.
All right. So we're going to start out with our water and wastewater treatment projects and an update from JVA. I guess you're going to take the lead on that, Michael?
Yeah, I've got a little PowerPoint to kind of walk through, which I shall share if I can figure it out here. Hello, Council. Thanks for the opportunity to talk to you. Really talking with Andy, just wanted to give everyone on Council a bit of an update on where we are at for the Water Resource Reclamation Facility improvements projects, but also understanding that some of the council members, this will be, some of what I'm talking about is a bit of a rehash from things that we've gone through before, but also want to give some of the newer council members the opportunity to hear about some of the history that on the project and why and how we've gotten to where we are today. So I'll see if I can't try and keep this as concise as possible, Mayor Hillman. You should all be seeing my my PowerPoint presentation.
Yes, we can see it. Thanks, Michael.
Okay. Yeah, so I'll just jump right into it. I wanted to just talk and remind everyone some of the history of why we're doing these 2 important projects. There's sort of three main drivers for this. The first and a really important driver for this expansion is that a lot of the equipment at the facility is dilapidated, run down at the end of its useful life. This includes the mechanical bar screen, the blowers that supply oxygen to the main process. I don't know if council will recall, but we actually had to do an emergency purchase of a blower from the town of Erie last year because we've been having so much trouble with those blowers. They're on their last leg. And that's kind of a recurring theme throughout the entire facility. So a lot of this equipment is old, it doesn't work, and it's a maintenance headache, and it's a safety issue for city staff and operations. That's kind of the first bullet. The second bullet is a lack of redundancy. So the facility, other than one time when they took the digester facilities offline for construction, the digesters have only been off, I think, one time offline, or the digester, I should say, had only been off one time in the 36 years that that plant's been in operation. So a lack of redundancy makes it really hard for them to actually work on that equipment or to deal with things when problems arise. And then the third bullet was that it's a state law that the city is required to either be planning or constructing a new facility anytime they exceed either 80% or 95% respectively of their permitted flows or loads. And as a reminder, as of February of this year, the facility had exceeded their permitted load capacity of 80% 20 times, 95% 12 times, and 100% 8 times. And hydraulically, similarly, they had 4 exceedances of 80%, 1 exceedance of 95%, and 1 exceedance of 100%. And I think a big part of why we're seeing these higher loads at LEAF is due to substantial increase in tourism, waste being generated because restaurants are cooking more food and selling more food, and the breweries, Westbound and Down and the Tommyknocker breweries. So that's kind of some of the original history as to why these projects started. And I might stop after each slide and just ask council members or anyone, since it's a work session, if anyone has any questions about any of that.
Another thing that I think, Michael, the increase to loads is, Chief has said this before, we've talked about it, that, 35 years ago, a lot of people didn't have disposals, in their homes. So not only that the restaurants are driving this and businesses, but even the way that we do our food and how we dispose of food at our homes now is also another part of this the exceeded use of the plant.
And that's a really good point. Thank you for bringing that up. I had actually mentioned that is that one thing we don't really have control over, and it's really hard to monitor, is exactly what people put down their drains or their sinks at home. And yeah, with a InSinkerator now, a lot more organics tend to go down than ever before because it's easy to just grind it up, flush it down. So then just to remind everyone, what the facility is currently permitted for is 600,000 gallons a day and just under 1,400 pounds per day of organic load. And what we will be re-permitted for once these two projects are complete are 995,000 gallons a day and 6,440 pounds per day of load. Really, the flow number is more flow than we necessarily need, but if we're going to be doing an expansion or an upgrade or improvements to replace old equipment, we figured while we're getting in there, we might as well get as much bang for the buck and as much flow as we can and keep us right under the 1 million gallon a day trigger, which would then potentially open up additional, more stringent discharge regulations and make the plant even more expensive because now we have to add additional treatment. So we had looked at theoretically all possible flows we could imagine for the next 20 years. And that number, I think, was 860,000 gallons a day. And the difference between, designing for a 260,000 gallon a day or a 400,000 gallon a day increase is very little. So we had decided at that time, early days, to just permit for just under 1 million gallons. The loads that we're being permitted for are all based on actual measurements of what we have seen historically from 2013 to 2018 in terms of maximum month loads, what actually comes into the facility. So using the flow that we had designed for, we then applied the loads to that flow, and that's how we got this 6,440 pounds, which seems like you just look at the capacity increase in flow or load, we're seeing nearly a 400% increase for what we're just designing for, and that's directly related to what we've measured coming into the front of the plant. And then when we started talking to the funding agencies, we had a very early pre-qualification meeting with DOLA, with the state, Colorado Water Power Development Authority. And we were talking about the need for this project and the funding options associated with it. And at the time, we were thinking we might have something between a $6 and an $8 million project. And with discussions with these funding agencies, we had decided that strategically it would be in the city's best interest to split this into two separate projects. Because if we did this all as one project, then the city would have to go for a leveraged loan through the state. And the interest rate on the leveraged loan might be today anywhere between 2% and maybe 3%. Whereas if we're able to split it into two projects and keep the loan value under $3 million, the city being with its disadvantaged status and the median household income being less than 80% of the state median, could likely get a 0, or as it turned out, a 0.5% loan on each of the $3 million loans. So instead of taking out a $6 million loan at 2.5%, we were able to take out two $3 million loans at 0.5%, and save the city dollars there, as well as maximize the opportunity for grants from DOLA and from the state and some other sources. So we really strategically decided, and the state was on board, and we, basically, as long as we could make it two distinctly separate projects, then we were going to be saving in the long run the city dollars with those loans. Any questions about that second slide?
So Michael, you didn't address inflow and infiltration that the city's already addressed to minimize the influent flow.
That has been ongoing for a number of years now, and we have seen the INI drop. So that is a good comment as well, John, and that is that the flows have come down. We'll see, I want to say last summer, we still got very close to the 80% threshold number. And I think we even eclipsed it. I don't know that it was the 90, I think the 95% happened right after the floods and before we really got a chance to do a lot with the INI. But even with the reductions in INI, we are still pushing up against that 80% trigger in the summer. Well, we were. Well, it'll be interesting to see with COVID-19 now. Everything's maybe a little bit different than it had been in the last 6 to 8 years.
Thank you.
Anything else? Thanks, John. So then the segue from the last slide is, okay, we decided we're going to have two projects. So what are these two projects? The project one was mainly focused on a lot of the parts of the facility that are at the end of their useful life and need replacement. That includes the headworks with a new mechanical screen and new grit removal, a new 2-stage aerobic digester, which not only gives the city redundancy, but it gives them the ability to achieve Class B biosolids, which they didn't previously have. And that means that the city could be saving money on the disposal of those biosolids. Everything, the relocation of the screw press, that's the piece of equipment that basically takes all of the solids that we aren't able to do anything with biologically. We send them to the digesters. And then after we've digested them as much as possible, whatever's non-volatile is left, we send that to basically a big press, and it squeezes the water out of it and makes what we call cake. And that's what we haul off to the landfill. So that project actually was its own project a few years ago at a construction cost of, I want to say maybe around $600,000, but it's saving the city almost $100,000 a year in hauling costs by not having to liquid haul. So that the payback period on that project was very, very short, and it made a lot of sense. We also have a scale room now below this press, so that when we're dumping our cake into a dumpster, we know exactly how much it weighs, so that we can again optimize what the city's paying to haul this stuff away. Otherwise, we may we may be leaving money on the table and paying McDonald Farms an extra $250 for a cubic yard or a ton of what's actually in the dumpster, in the rollaway. And then outside of the new facilities, we also have the conversion of what's currently the digester into an equalization tank and installation of tertiary filters, which are going to give a much cleaner product to Clear Creek, and also give us some additional assurance, additional barrier for not failing to meet our discharge permit while we're under construction for the second project. In the picture here, I just have a picture of the aerobic digester, the new digester. You can see the air piping on the bottom of it, and the column sits in the middle of the tank. And then looking down into the hatch, this was right after we put the digester into service, and they're working. So just a couple photos for council to see. Any questions on project one, what it includes? Okay, hearing none.
Sorry, I was trying to get my mute up. So project one is complete.
Project one is 90% complete. I'd have to check with John Bordoni, or I can maybe after the meeting open up the pay app and tell you exactly, but what's left to do, we're currently in startup. We're going to be rerouting all flows through this new mechanical headworks, and then the filters. So we have to install the filters and finish the conversion of that, what's currently a digester, into a equalization tank. So my guess is we've got about 4 weeks, maybe 6 weeks, and we'll see substantial completion, more likely 4 weeks, and we'll have substantial completion on project one, and then the contractor would be slotting into project two. Project two is basically a conversion of the old secondary process, which is sequencing batch reactors, into a new technology called aerobic granular sludge. So this is really where we get the increased flow and load capacity. And I know this is probably a really hard picture to see on the right, but this technology it's a new approved technology with the state. Actually, the city of Idaho Springs, JVA, and the vendor, Aqua Aerobics, and the state worked very collaboratively together last year to get new technology approval for this process. And this is going to be one of the first of its kind in North America. There are many of these facilities operating in Europe very successfully. There are some in Australia, some in South America. But right now, the only operational facilities in North America are the owner of the technology built a small plant in Rockford, Illinois. And then Foley, Alabama has just started up a facility that's, I want to say it's a 2.5 MGD facility. So 2 or 3 times as big as the city of Idaho Springs. And then we will be next cab off the rank. It's a really cool technology. It's cutting edge. It kind of harkens back to, I don't know if anyone on council would remember this, but the original treatment process that went in 1984, the city was actually the first in the state of Colorado to install that process at the time. So it's, the city has been on the leading edge in wastewater for almost 40 years now. One of the things that's great about the process is it's very energy efficient. It uses much less air than the other process that we look very closely at. Hi, is that Andy? I'm not sure who that was.
Did somebody ask a question? Oh, go ahead, go on, Michael.
So without going into the, I guess, the nuts and bolts, somebody does have the mic on.
Did you mute your system, please? We're getting a bunch of background on you.
so I guess the bottom line is that there's probably going to be a lot of other people who are going to want to come to Idaho Springs to see this facility. We did piloting on it December of 2018 into January of 2018, and we had the local technical group from the Rocky Mountain Water Environment Association came up, and we did a tour at that time. And it will be what we think is a cutting edge showcase facility for the city. So we're really proud of it, and we are excited to be a part of it as well. Any questions from council on project 2?
How long is our expected construction time on project 2?
That is a very good question. If I jump forward to the project 2 update, I'll just jump around in the schedule. We're expecting, so one of the, I think on the agenda for tonight's meeting, regular session, will be a notice of award / notice to proceed for project 2. Assuming that goes through, then we would be issuing notice to proceed tomorrow. And depending on how long it takes to execute the contract and get the bonds in place, we issue notice of award tomorrow. Then notice to proceed we issue once the contract and bonds are in place, would be sometime around 23rd or 27th of July. Equipment is going to be starting to arrive for project 2 as early as next week. The city may recall that in order to keep this whole project on the timeline that we needed, the city went ahead and issued a purchase order for the equipment themselves. And that purchase order would be transferred over to the contractor. So we could get the submittals and all of the fabrication going on the project and not have another 6 to 8 month delay if we hadn't issued that purchase order until we issued this notice to proceed. So equipment that's already been happening. We expect construction to happen early September, and we would see some city staff go out to that Rockford facility sometime we expect in November for a week of training right before we do start up at our plant. And we would expect the first trains brought online in November. And we probably transfer all of the flow from the existing process to that new process around December, Christmas, mid-December sometime. As soon as we transfer that flow, then we begin construction on the second basin, and we would expect the second basin should go much quicker than the first. And we would be started up by March and substantially complete by May of next year, finally complete by June of next year. And it is worthwhile to point out that the project is proposed to be funded by a $3 million SRF loan at a 0.5% interest rate and a 30-year term. That was just executed June 30th or just before June 30th, as well as the $1 million DOLA Energy Impact Grant, EIAF. I can't remember, Mike, what all of those energy something impact grant. So that's kind of the schedule for project 2. Does anybody have questions about that?
Are we anticipating any slowdown with the pandemic and any supply problems?
Yes and no. No, because we got the most of this equipment is coming from one supplier, Aqua Aerobics, and they have confirmed delivery dates on all of their major equipment. The yes would be for anything we still have to procure, which could be like valves or couplings or minor stuff, smaller stuff, which we're not expecting should have as long of a lead time. We have seen that supply chains have been disrupted by this, and delivery times have been impacted. So that's a very good question, but I would say the lion's share of what we're expecting coming, no. For small equipment, it's possible, and that's working closely with Fisher Construction, our construction manager at risk. That's one of the reasons why we like the design approach of CMAR, is that if we run into that, then we can work collaboratively and open book to figure out whether or not there's an alternative, an engineer approved equal that we can get that still meets schedule. that, that works for the project and is a good solution.
Yes, Michael, Bob here. I was on council. I know when we started up the on that original innovative treatment on the with the UV lamps, and we did have some problems with it early on, but the grant also was structured to help financially if we did run into technical difficulties. And I was wondering if there's any sort of a clause like that with this new technology, or if there's even that much risk.
Well, what we've done is we have a process performance guarantee with the manufacturer, and they have basically it's like an insurance policy, if you will, in that if for some reason their process didn't work and we needed to then install additional equipment to make sure we were meeting permit, they would pay for that.
Okay.
The way that it's written is that tertiary filters that we've installed that the city has paid for, if for some reason this process fails to meet its guaranteed performance, then the cost of those filters would be coming back to the city, and that's hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yes, right. Okay, well, that's good backstop. That's okay. That's comforting. Thank you.
And the other thing to put out there is that that this manufacturer is a very reputable manufacturer. They have a lot of good process expertise, and they are committed to ensure that this is a successful facility because because it's one of the first, and they're going to want to show everyone else how great this technology is. So we expect that we've got a long-term partner with them too to work through whatever problems we might have. JVA will be there, Aqua Aerobics will be there, hand in hand, side by side with the city if we run into problems.
That's a really good point. Good point. Okay, thank you.
I realize I was trying to make this 20 minutes and I'm coming on 27, so I'll see if I can cut it off pretty quick here. I just wanted to remind everyone that how we're delivering these projects is CMAR, Construction Manager at Risk, and that I kind of talked a little bit about that. There's a few reasons why we like the CMAR delivery. One is that we get the contractor at the table with us as a partner, and we get an open book approach to pricing and everything else. When we bid the first project in October of 2018, we got 5 really strong bids, and we awarded the design and construction to Fisher Construction. When we bid project 2 as a separate project, we got 2 strong bids, one from Velocity and one from Fisher. We awarded the design to Fisher, and back in August, the council had approved to award to Fisher for the GMP, but we need to revisit that tonight because the state says that you technically can't have your award until after the loan had been executed.
You on your speaker or am I on the speaker?
Mariah, can you say again? Or maybe that wasn't Mariah.
No, they're just discussing.
It was, I muted the mic. I think she wasn't talking.
Yeah.
Okay. I think I only have 1 or 2 slides. Even though it says 12, I've got some spares in there. So we talked about project 1 and where we're at and what's left to do. That's what this slide is. And this picture shows a picture of the new blowers side by side with the old blower that we bought as an emergency to the existing blowers that are failing. And we've moved that over to the new plant to be a backup blower for these 2 blowers should we ever have an issue. So I think I talked about the timing on project 1. We talked about this slide on project 2. And the only other thing I really had is just to give the council a quick update on the Public Works building, which sits immediately west of our new digesters for project 1. So what you don't see in this isometric drawing here is the concrete tank that sits sits over here where my mouse is hovering. And just for a quick update for council on Public Works, we're expecting to have our 100% construction documents done by the end of this month. We will be assisting and working collaboratively with the city on a DOLA grant application for $1 million for this project, just like we went after $1 million for both of the WRRF improvements projects and were successful with. And that work will be happening in the next week or 2 in coordination with Andy. I think that's everything I had. So I'll be quiet now and see if anyone had any further questions.
One thing I would just tag on to you, Michael, for council to know that Andy and I and John Bordoni met with Clay Brown. Was John Bordoni on that line? Anyway, we did meet with Clay Brown from DOLA remotely and talked about this grant. It needs to be done by August 1st, right, Jonathan? So we're on a crunch to get this thing done for our public works building.
And it sounds like it may be a competitive cycle, but with what's happened in the oil and gas industry in the last year, there's a lot of uncertainty as to what funds might be available in the next cycles in 2021. So better to get in now and see how you score than to sit on it.
Yep, we were notified that the amount of money that we usually have for these rounds is around 20 million. Sounds like they've got about 10 million. So we're going to have to do our best to put on a show for them to try to get that full funding for that. All right, does anybody else have any questions for Michael about the water and wastewater, the water treatment plant? Or say it again, the reclamation, the water, what is it, Michael?
Water Resource Reclamation Facility.
That's a mouthful.
It's the newest, latest, and greatest. It's the hip thing in wastewater. That's what we call them now.
It'll actually be on our sign on the building too. So.
Yep.
All right. Thanks, Michael, for the update. With no other questions. All right. Let's move.
Nice presentation.
All right. Let's move down to the VCANT, the Virginia Canyon Mountain Park Master Plan update. We have Gary on with us. That's going to give us that update. Is that correct, Gary?
Boom. I think Barb can actually kick it off for us.
I forgot Barb was on here too. Barb?
So you have in your packets, my staff report. I believe it got put in the regular council packet. But it's a pretty quick update. So you all know that in April of 2018, the city got the GOCO Local Park and Outdoor Recreation Planning Grant. And the city went ahead with THK in partnership with Tony Boone to develop the master plan. There was a stakeholder group, a steering committee. So subsequent to that, the city adopted the Virginia Canyon Mountain Park Master Plan in the fall of 2019. And the need for the addendum is because Gary is so awesome that COMBA, the Colorado Mountain Bike Association, they've been working with the city to develop new biking and hiking trails that can be constructed starting as soon as this year. So there were two ways in which to reflect the new trail updates. One was to go back into the master plan and update that. We thought it would be easier, and Diane is very happy about this, that all we would do is an addendum to the master plan, which is allowed for statutory communities. So you have before you a simple amendment to the master plan that basically memorializes new, more detailed trail alignments. So Gary worked with both Tony Boone, also did some work with Argo in terms of their upper landing to prepare this new trails map. Because you're a statutory city, it's actually the Planning Commission that adopts comprehensive plans. So the Planning Commission did adopt the master plan at their last meeting, but we always feel it's important, Carmen agrees, that it's important for the city council to also adopt that. So that is why that is in front of you. Once this gets adopted, the next step will be a memorandum of understanding with COMBA regarding trail construction, and we'll bring that to city council at a separate work session. That will be modeled after a similar memorandum of understanding that Clear Creek County has with Comba, as well as a couple other nearby jurisdictions. So I'm going to turn it over to Gary for Gary to just give a brief overview. And Gary, can you share by chance that new trail map?
I might be able to. Let me see. I've not been through this before, so.
In the bottom of your screen, there's a green button on the
Yeah,
task.
I'm on that already. Just walking through all the prompts that it gives you after that. So you guys can see my screen at this point?
No, might have to double click. There might be one more prompt to double click the window.
Barb did this last time. All right, I'm back to this screen. Looks like my computer is, unless you can see it now, my computer is not set up for that. I'd have to go into settings and securities to share that with you. Did you have that ready, Barb, at all?
I do not, but I can look. Andy, do you have it handy?
It's really, if we can't get a visual copy up this hour, I'm sure we can get it up for the next session. It's really pretty straightforward. The way the plan was laid out, the very top, the northern end of the property that the city holds was fragmented and didn't allow us to put in trail routes that would really connect well to the Argo's upper landing, which was still being developed and moving around, and just didn't allow us to lay out good trail routes as good as we would like. So after the master plan was adopted back in September of last year, the Argo was able to secure some additional mining claims, some additional holdings up in that area. There we go. Thanks, John. So you can see where this yellow arrow is here on this map. That's largely where the Argo upper landing is going to be, and getting connected to that while staying on the city property was extremely difficult and was leading to really suboptimal routes for getting traffic in and out of that upper landing area and access from Santa Fe Mine Road. So we were able, with the additional holdings that the Argo acquired, to kind of fill in some of those donut holes. Particularly around, you can see the big hole there in the middle where you've got the numbers 8550 and 8500 next to each other. So once that became available, we went back out there, Comba and Tony Boone and the Argo team, and worked on how to take advantage of the new area. And it really opened up all the routes. It gave us a chance to bring each of the individual trails directly to the landing in their own spot. I think you'd have to scroll down through this PDF, John. Maybe a little faster.
Okay, at the bottom here. I'm sorry.
Yeah, there's a whole nother slide on a different page. Probably keep going. There we go.
Okay.
So the shaded area now is everything that's available to us to put trails on. And you can see the outlined area is what we were working with prior. So you can see where we were able to route each of the individual trails directly up to the black dot there at the top, which is where the Argo upper landing is going to be. So really all this is an improvement to the plan. We were able to take advantage of additional space, make better routes and more sustainable and enjoyable trails as part of the plan, which we're really excited about being able to move in that direction. So Planning Commission recently agreed that this was a good step forward and accepted the addendum. And I think we're just bringing you up to speed on that as well. Any questions? Happy to answer them.
Any questions from council?
As far as the funding, is this what that $420,000 is involved with that, we were talking about a couple of weeks ago that Argo was going to lend to the city? Or is this separately funded?
Yeah, no, my understanding is the Argo, and I'm not involved in those negotiations, but the Argo is making an advance available to the city from gondola revenues.
Okay.
So it's not a loan, it's not a debt. It's something that, you know, I think if they don't produce the gondola revenue, that's not really the city's problem. But yes, that 400,000 approximately is what will allow us to get started on trails pretty much immediately, with the goal of having some top to bottom routes open by the time the gondola is scheduled to be operational at the end of summer September 2021.
All right, anything else? All right, Gary, thank you so much, you and Barb, for the update on this, and
my pleasure.
Kind of telling and showing where we're at on this project, and looking forward to getting this thing moving along.
Yeah, we're close. 3 years in. Probably getting the shovel ready.
There you go. There you go. All right. One more chance for questions to Gary or Barb. All right. Thanks both of you again. We're gonna move into our pedicab proposal. Laura, are you still with us?
I'm here.
We're
So
supposed to your face.
I'm actually, let me see if I can do this. I'm on vacation and I'm down in South Florida. I was gonna make Cooper do all the work, but I can at least get us started. So I don't know if folks on the line have heard about pedicabs or have ever experienced a pedicab ride. I know that Chief Malanka is very familiar with this service, but anybody else? Has anybody, or do you know what these are? Yeah? Yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, cool. Well, we've had a lot of very positive response about offering a pedicab service in downtown Idaho Springs, especially now with the pedestrian mall. And we are moving forward, and we've gotten sponsors, and we have folks supporting us, and we've run into a couple obstacles, but we are here today to talk about just getting approval to do this. And then step B is potentially getting approval or getting a variance to offer advertising, to be able to sell advertising on the side of the pedicab. The current sign code prohibits that kind of advertising right now. So that would be something that maybe would be a project for our young people to work with their city government and go after a change in a code or the variance. So, but anyway, Cooper, anything to add in terms of why you'd like to see this happen for the young people?
Not really. I mean, you said most of it. I just think it's a great opportunity for youth to get involved in the community, get out about around Idaho Springs instead of sitting at home through all of this. It's providing jobs for youth, which is always a good idea. It's just a great program that we're trying to start up.
And I'm not sure if you all got a chance to look at the business plan, but the one point, I know this doesn't sound right, but we're not wanting to launch this business with a big profit in mind. We are wanting to launch it for the youth to have the experience and learn about being an independent contractor and learn about starting a business and learn about the community. So that's sort of what we're into it for. Plus, it's been really cool because we've got a lot of collaboration, and I think that also makes it kind of an exciting project to work on. We've got the school involved who has offered to do all the maintenance for any equipment that we might end up owning. Because of I don't know if anybody's heard of the Project Bike Tech that they're starting at the Clear Creek High School, but the school has said they would love to be involved in doing the maintenance on this equipment. And we've got Interstate Parking has actually offered to cover the cost of equipment, either rental or purchase of the actual pedicabs. And Argo has actually offered to potentially submit the business license application and carry the insurance, but we're looking at options there. That's been our one sort of barrier. But like I said, we're really here today to get approval to actually offer this service in downtown Idaho.
Yeah, and we have multiple options for sponsors as well to help with advertising and whatever else we'd need to do with the cabs.
Now, is this going to be a citywide service that you would go from the east end to the west end, or are you just talking about in the historic district? What is your initial thoughts and maybe future thoughts?
Cooper?
So we'll probably be going back and forth. It depends on how we feel once we get everything actually set up and rolling. We do have options set up. It's in the business plan, I believe, for a historical tour around Idaho Springs, which would be like a set fare. You'd pay, and then we take you on a historical tour and explain the history of Idaho Springs and all the shops and everything. But then everything else would be like in any fair's fare from east to west, depending on how far we're taking you.
And in terms of, I think the idea would be to potentially initiate most rides at the outer perimeter parking lots, but also take random rides along the way, when available. But yeah, I mean, I think that kind of depends on what you guys all have to say about this.
Well, you.
Oh, I have no idea what they look like, how fast they go. I don't have a clue what you're presenting here.
Let me, I can try to share the screen. I'm not sure if I'm allowed. Let me see if I can.
John will assist you.
Okay, here we go.
You're good to go.
Okay, can you see that?
There you go.
So that's actually Cooper in the middle.
Yeah. So it's just a bike with like a bench kind of seat on the back, and then you just pull people around and take them to where they need to go. And they can go as slow as people walking, so you wouldn't be like running people over, you wouldn't be running people off sidewalks or wherever. They can go like fast depending on if we get motors. Currently, we're not planning on buying them with motors. Right now, we're actually looking at renting them for the rest of the year. But yeah, they don't have to go any certain speed. So it's not like a bike where you have to go a minimal speed to keep going. They can go as slow as pedestrians walking, so they wouldn't be interfering with any of the pedestrian mall or anything.
Didn't they call them rickshaws?
Yeah, rickshaws or pedicabs.
Yep.
So I have a question for Chief, if Chief could weigh in on how the traffic flow would be with these.
Yeah, we'd have to set up parameters as to where they could and could not be. Fortunately, we have the greenway that parallels Colorado. I don't anticipate there would be a great deal of traffic congestion, given that the speed limit on Minor is 15 miles an hour. And of course, Minor in the historic district is closed to motor vehicles. So I think what I would recommend is that we, if the council approves the measure, is allow a trial period and see how motor vehicle traffic and the pedicabs, how compatible they are. As far as enforcement goes, the pedicab it follows the same traffic code regulations as a bicycle. So that's not necessarily going to be difficult for us to work with. Plus, speaking with Cooper, their intent is to work inside the parameters of our city ordinances. So I think it's certainly worth the experiment.
And with only about 6 weeks left in the summer, I think we're looking at maybe a 2-month rental and then a short-term insurance policy. And I think once we get this conversation taken care of, as long as we're approved, I think we're going to have Cooper and Clay, Cooper and Fry and Clay Robertson are going to work with their parents to develop an LLC and then get their liability insurance on this pedicab. And then in the spring, both of these young men will be 18 years old and they can take it over completely. So it will truly be an authentic youth-run business, which is really what Mountain Youth Network is all about. We want to promote youth experience, and if we can encourage them to be entrepreneurs, that's really what we're after here. So I mean, and the advertising idea is more of an afterthought. Like if that ends up being a great way to, if we have folks that want to, I know that Tommy Knocker really wants to put some advertising out there on these things. Steve is really all about this idea. He likes it a lot. So anyway, that's what we're here for.
And Mayor, if I could, please.
Yes, please. Who's that?
Diane.
Sure.
In some of the notes that I presented to council in this packet, Carmen has said that the parameters would need to be spelled out in a resolution. Allowing a vendor's license in the historic district would also need council approval. I'm sure that would be spelled out in the resolution as well. There is a sticking point with the signage in that changing signs like that are not allowed. So it would require change of the ordinance or how council wants to approach that.
And this would just be advertising on the units. Is that correct?
Yeah, and again, you know, that's not the biggest priority right now. I think what Chief Malanka said is that having a trial period, I don't think we need to really worry about advertising for a trial period.
Yeah, it's just for later on, if once the business is up and running, if local stores in Idaho Springs would like to put like their logos and whatever else on our cabs, then they could pay for advertising.
Can we get you to wear a t-shirt?
Yeah.
Mayor, if I may.
So, were you going to say something, Carmen?
Yes, sir.
Go right ahead.
Okay. There are really, I think Laura and Cooper and Diane have covered all this well, but to sort of give council some direction here, I think there are two very discrete issues. One, I think most principally for Laura and Cooper, is does council want to explore and direct us as staff to further the discussion and further what needs to be done to allow them to embark on this little experiment. And if council consensus in this work session, which of course we can't take formal action in a work session, but if council consensus tonight is that you as a group wish to give the thumbs up to pursuing this, what we as staff would do, Mayor, is bring to you on a regular meeting agenda, much like you have tonight for another vendor license is on your regular meeting later. So like that, we would bring to you at your next regular meeting, if you like that quickly, and we certainly can do that, a regular agenda item that authorizes this kind of operation as a movable vendor sort of stand. It's not exactly like a vendor stand, but it's most like that under our code in terms of licensure. We would bring you a very short resolution that authorizes this. And that resolution and that authorization, Mayor and Council, can include the sorts of parameters that Chief Malanka said that he would like to recommend and attach to this for this sort of initial term and experiment, just so it could all be in writing and it could be quite clear what the parameters are for this. So that's issue and priority, I think, number one. And then secondarily, I think as Laura has said, maybe a further discussion in a more general sense is the sign code rules and whether or not mayor and council, you wish to talk further about possibly amending the sign code a little bit to allow these kinds of movable signs on vehicles, human powered or other, that navigate our city streets and our city sidewalks, because right now signage, advertising on those kinds of things is not allowed. So those are really the two issues, council and mayor. I think first among them is, you know, how do you feel about this general proposal? And if you feel favorable, we'll bring you back something formal as soon as we can.
So Carmen, does that mean, so Laura, when were you trying to get, what position or what's your time frame on this? Getting the insurance, getting the LLC, and up and running, and getting the rentals and going? What is your time frame on that?
Well, I mean, we'd love to keep moving as forward as quickly as possible, for sure, because we, you know, let's hope these kiddos are going to be back in school. So starting the end of August, and not to say that it would have to stop. I mean, it could be a weekend thing, but I would say, I mean, if we can get this all moving on and be there for the next, or have the next council meeting formally vote on it, that would be, I don't know if that's asking too much. I'm not sure how the timing can go.
Well, I would like to take it a step further to keep moving you along, and potentially next Monday night, schedule a special meeting to get it accomplished and have it on a special meeting. That would, otherwise you would have to wait 2 weeks, Laura. And so we would like to try to streamline that a little bit and help you guys out, of course, dependent upon the desires of council, if it passed that Monday night. So why don't we do that? Just out of curiosity, Diane, this Prospector bus was doing advertising on their bus. Is that something different than what this is? And how did that happen?
Well, they're not based out of Idaho Springs. I mean, their business is not in the city of Idaho Springs. They don't have a business license.
Okay. So we don't want Laura to base it at Idaho Springs. We want it here. Okay, so we'll have a special meeting. We'll have a work session next week, but we can also do a good special meeting, and that would give us the opportunity to weigh in and also take a vote on to move forward. And one other thing that I'll throw you out there, there was a presentation also to the Clear Creek Economic Development Corporation, and everybody on that board was very intrigued and glad to get our youth involved in our community like this. And just for your information also, we appointed 2 of our high school students to represent as voting members of our Economic Development Board. So we're also reaching out and allowing people to come in and doing things to do the right things for our youth in our community. And that, Laura, you've done an outstanding job. Thanks for what you've done with this this network and how you've been moving along. And we just have to take our hats off to you for all the time that you spent.
Thank you. Thank you. And I mean, Cooper and all the young people that have come forward to do any of these projects through Mountain Youth Network have been amazing. So, you know, you can ask young people to do things and have meaningful experiences and take on responsibilities, and boy, they sure step up. So thanks, Cooper.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, Andy said he was having a hard time hearing me. Can you hear me okay?
You are coming in a little.
You need to turn up the audio quite a lot, Mike.
Do what?
I cannot hear you well at all.
I don't know how to speak any louder. My microphone up. Sorry, I can yell. Is this better?
Well, Mayor Hillman, one thing you might be able to do is if you have a hands-free for your phone, you might be able to plug that into a jack into your computer, and then it would use that microphone. Other than that, though,
yeah.
I can hear you okay.
I don't have anything like that, so I'll have to figure out what to do on next week.
I can hear you loud and clear, boss, Mayor.
Okay, there you go. All right. Thanks, everybody, for that. We will move on. Laura, we'll have that special meeting next week. So you can be in the audience on that. So thank you. Now we're going to talk lastly, and we have about 30 minutes. I don't think this is going to take that long, but the Corona Relief Fund update. This is from the CARES Act, and I'm going to let John Kane take off with it here. Or is this, no, this is, yeah.
This is the Corona Relief Fund that we got from the Mile High United Way. It was a couple of weeks ago. It was in April, actually, and we were awarded $25,000.
It's not what I thought it was.
Yeah, it's a little different. We were awarded $25,000 to provide direct assistance to residents of the city that were impacted by the virus. So basically what happened was in March, we did a survey to kind of try to understand some of the impacts that people were having. The biggest ones that we saw were loss of work, childcare issues, businesses closing, meal security, healthcare security, transportation problems, and kind of living arrangement problems with eviction and things like that. This is before that the governor said that there could be no evictions. And so what we did is we took the data that we got from that survey and I applied to Mile High United Way for $25,000 to help people. Essentially what we did was give people $100 bills, either a gift card to Safeway or just a $100 bill, depending on the problem. Some people received up to $500. For instance, for a large family, they received larger awards, but on average it was $100 awards. We were actually able to leverage those funds just a little bit. A private business owner gave us $500 to kind of help with the fund. And we also received about $500 of free, oh, we did receive 500 in gift cards from Safeway for buying in bulk. Overall, we helped 122 people with funds through this program, all residents of the city. And that's really households. It's not really individuals. There was, a couple of people who were, acquainted, different families and things like that. But overall, that's a pretty good number of people for the city to help. I need to now, the next step is to submit to Mile High United Way a report of the program. So that's kind of what we're going to do next. I also wanted to make sure, that we really thank Wonder, Kelsey, and Diane. They administered this program. We worked really hard to set this up as a blind program so nobody had to feel like they were embarrassed to ask for money or that everybody would know their business. Kelsey took the applications in, and once she figured out that they were eligible, Wonder and Diane gave the money out. And so that process worked pretty good. And we couldn't have done this without them. They did a really good job and kind of went above and beyond their normal duties. And it was actually, in some cases, fairly time intensive to do it. So I just wanted to tell you guys what we had done, that the program I think was very successful. And then if you had any questions for me about how it worked or anything like that, I could answer them.
Anybody have any questions? And just real briefly, the grant, and I want to touch real quick on this since on the Corona Relief Fund update, and it was a grant. Just John, give us a quick run through of the CARES Act grant that we're applying for right now. That I thought that was what this was.
Gotcha. The city has applied with the county and the other municipalities in the county for CARES Act funding from the state. We were allocated about $800,000 for the county. And so the question was, should we all apply for our own little pots of money or work together? And ultimately, that's the route we took. There's going to be the potential for $50,000 of reimbursement for COVID-related expenses for the city. That's in the grant. There's also another 360? Is it 360, Mike?
I think it's 315.
Oh, 315. There's 315,000 for business support. So this is going to be grants for businesses in the county that were sustainable except for COVID-19. So there's going to be some eligibility requirements to make sure that people are actually operating before the virus pandemic happened. But basically the idea will be is that with our tourism-based economy, we know that a lot of businesses typically make all their money in the summer and live off of that. And so we know that in the next 4 or 5 months, we're going to see an extremely high number of businesses that could potentially fail without help. And so this money would be intended to help with that process. And it's not, that end of it is not completely figured out exactly, but it will likely work similar to the COVID disaster program that we had from the EDC, where we gave about $340,000 to area businesses in disaster loans. They were unsecured loans for the most part at like 1 to 3% interest. Other things with the CARES Act, there's going to be a $200,000 reserve. All of this money needs to be spent by December 31st. And so one of the questions is just making sure that we have COVID related expenses. The city had several related to the marketplace. We also hired additional staff that was intended to help make sure the bathrooms stayed clean and the picnic tables, and kind of, you know, we followed the social hygiene kind of guidelines set by the new public health orders. We purchased a backpack sprayer for disinfectant to help with that process. And then there's also been like the purchase of the barricades and a few other expenses that were related to that, you know, to setting up the marketplace so that our businesses could operate this summer.
And along with that, you will be receiving, I'm assuming they're going to send it out for residents also, but any business owner and resident, there's going to be a survey of how the county, how we think that the county should disperse this money, the application on it, and a few other things. So look for that in the mail in the very short term, and try to get that back to the county as soon as we can. Another grant that we're looking at is the CDOT grant. John, you want to explain what we're looking at doing with that one?
Yes, sir. So in the very near future, we'll be submitting, I've been writing a grant through the CDOT Revitalize Main Street program. And basically what it was intended for was to allow for cities to create marketplaces like ours. Now, the thing with us, we move so fast that we were out ahead of this. And so a lot of our improvements are already in place. And so we've been looking at infrastructure improvements that will promote the revitalization of Minor Street with parking or with a marketplace, because it's potential that maybe that marketplace could stay in the summertime or something like that. And so we've been looking at improvements to just kind of look at signage. The signage in the downtown area, the street signs are nearing the end of their life, and we are going to need to replace them at some point in the future. We also could use better wayfinding signage, directions to the library, the visitor center, city hall, parking, those kinds of community resources. So we've included those. Also on the list is a variable message board. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the board that's been placed by the county over by CRC Park. It's a census project to kind of make sure that people know that we need to complete our censuses because of the money we get back from that. But we were able this weekend, the mayor talked to the county and they let us put some COVID related messaging on the board related to social distancing. And it's got really good visibility where it is. And having a board like that in town would benefit us for any number of purposes. So we included one of those boards in the ask. The other thing that we've been considering is maybe potentially bollards or new barricades that are more attractive for the minor place or for the marketplace when we shut it down, just so that we keep the inviting kind of environment. We want to make sure there's a good public safety, they're approved by public safety to make sure we can get emergency vehicles into there if we need to when it's shut. So we've been looking at one of those options. And then the other thing that we've been looking at is improving ADA access and crosswalks in the downtown area. Of particular concern in the 1300 block in front of Carlson, one of the sides of that crosswalk does not have an ADA cut in the curb. And so we've been looking at maybe a potential improvement there, and then maybe doing a little bit better job with our crosswalks downtown. And then the last thing would be looking at bike racks and benches, because this grant is really about promoting multimodal access in the downtown and trying to, maybe give us an opportunity to use some of the dispersed parking through the county or the city, make sure residents can access the downtown without having to worry about the congestion of the parking lots, which is a lot about bike access and just making sure there's good pedestrian and bike access and that things are safe and well lit and those kinds of infrastructure improvements.
All right, thanks, John. I'm getting the tag.
So are we, any of this grants supplement lost sales tax revenues?
I would say promote more than supplement. The activities of the marketplace have allowed some of our businesses to return to 100% occupancy. Not all of them are there, but I'd say on average, most businesses are now performing at probably about 60 to 65% occupancy. And so what we've done is we've allowed them to have their businesses be more sustainable, but we've also created an environment where we can generate sales tax safely. Is kind of the tack with that CDOT grant.
But the city cannot put it in their coffers for that lost revenue.
No, you can't just call it revenue. We considered some of replacing reimbursement for some of the items that we use for the marketplace. But the thing with that is that the CARES Act that we were talking about previously, some of the reimbursement requests are from that. So that will reimburse the money that we spent on the marketplace. We wanted to avoid having two grants that were kind of doing the same thing. So that's why we were thinking that these improvements, which have been needed in the city for a while, might be a better use of the funds of this particular grant.
All right. Any other questions? All right. That gives us, somebody was going to speak? Okay, well, that gives us about 20 minutes before our regular meeting starts. So take a break and we'll be back here at 7 o'clock.
Sorry, Mayor Hillman.
So we just stay on this.
Yes, John, you could, you don't have to stay. You just leave your, leave your, it running and then just come back and join
Okay.
when you're ready. Yep.
All right. Thank you.
Hey, Cameron. So, I'm presenting the last point, and then after that, Mayor Hillman said, all right, well, that concludes.
Big art shop on Road State First Group. Yeah. Well, you gotta go west on that road.
Sorry, I was
Hey, Bob, can you hear me? This is Art.
Yes, I can. Now that I'm unmuted, yeah.
Maybe I misunderstood, but that gentleman, I think his name was Gary. When I asked him if if the bike trails were being funded by that loan, he corrected me and said it wasn't a loan and it's not a debt. And if for some unfortunate reason, the revenue wasn't generated by the gondolas, we would be off, it wouldn't be our responsibility. Did I hear him right?
All right, we almost have everybody back now.
That's as I understand it.
What he said, right? But he wasn't representing.
Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, okay, Bob. Well,
Yeah, Art, I can't answer you for sure right now.
Okay, well, I mean, did you hear what he said though?
Oh, I did. Yes, I sure did.
Can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
John, James?
Oh, much better.
You can, okay, all right. Hey, Bob, are you there?
Yes. Hello.
I can't hear you, Bob.
You can't hear me?
Somebody else talk, because I can't hear anybody.
I hear you fine, Mike.
Yeah, me too.
All right. I cannot hear anybody. Let me see what I've done here. Hey, John.
Hey, we can hear you.
Well, I can't hear y'all. I can't hear anybody.
I'm gonna put you in the waiting room.
Talk now.
Can you hear anybody?
Testing.
I can hear you. I must have accidentally pushed my mute or something. But you can't hear you now.
Okay.
I can hear you.
All right. Bob, I just got a call from the mayor of Brookvale.
Oh, no. I'm sorry.
All right. It is 7 o'clock. We have everybody back on with us. Are you there? Andy, are you back?
I am. Thank you, Mayor.
All right. Here we go. It is 7 o'clock. This is our regular scheduled meeting for July 13th, 2020. Thanks everybody for being here. I need roll call, please.
Michael Hillman,
Here.
Scott Pennell,
Here.
Chuck Harmon,
Here.
Bob Boland,
Here.
John Curtis,
Here.
Art Cacavelli,
Here.
Jim Clark.
Here.
All right. Please stand with us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance
to the flag
flag
of the
United States of America,
to the
republic
for which it stands,
and
one
nation
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible, with liberty and
with peace,
justice
justice
for
for
all.
all.
All right, please be seated. Thank you. All right, we have an agenda in front of us. Does anybody have any asks for any modifications? Hearing none, I need a motion, please.
I would move that we approve the agenda for the July 13th, 2020 meeting.
Second.
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 Motion and a second. Discussion? All in favor, say aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. Does anybody on council feel that they have a conflict of interest tonight as we move forward?
Yes, I'll recuse myself on resolutions item B.
Okay.
And Mayor, I'll recuse myself on the paying of allied towing bills.
All right. Thanks, Jim, for giving me a heads up on that. All right. Okay, we will move down to the approval of the minutes. Do I have a motion?
Move that we approve the minutes from June 22nd, 2020.
And do I have a second?
A second.
All right. That was Chuck and Art, I believe. And,
That's correct.
And discussion. Hearing none. All in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, we'll move down to the bills.
I move that we approve the bills to July 13th, 2020, except for Allied Towing.
Do I have a second?
A second.
In a second, Jim will not be voting on this. Any discussion on our bills? Is there any questions that you want to pose on the bills? Is this our last payment to ACC? Andy?
Mayor, that was for the water line on,
Oh, that's right. They had to come back. We didn't have the equipment. Gotcha.
yes, correct.
Okay. All right. Do we have anything else that we need to ask any questions on?
Mayor, was there are we looking at a new hire on for a polygraph test?
I'm sorry, Jim, say again.
Item number 4342.
What page?
No. Jim, that's an old
one.
Can you hear me, Jim?
Yes, sir.
Okay, yeah, that's an old bill. That was from Tim Collins. Evidently, that one fell through the cracks. So they notified us, and we just went back on our records. It took us a little while to differentiate which test that was, but that's what that is. That's from Tim Collins' hiring.
Cool.
Okay. Does anybody have anything else? All right, I need roll call.
Michael Hillman,
Yes.
Scott Pennell,
Yes.
Chuck Harmon,
Yes.
Bob Boland,
Yes.
John Curtis,
Yes.
Art Cacavelli.
Yes.
Did we get a vote?
Oh,
from
sorry, Jim Clark.
Okay.
I can't vote on this one.
We're
Yeah.
doing a second vote on just your bill.
Yeah, this is everything besides Allied, Jim.
Oh, gotcha. Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay. All right, we need a motion for Allied Towing.
I would move that we approve the Allied Towing bills to July 13th, 2020.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Motion and a second on the table. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Michael Hillman,
Yes.
Scott Pennell,
Yes.
Chuck Harmon,
Yes.
Bob Boland,
Yes.
John Curtis,
Yes.
Art Cacavelli.
Yes.
All right, we can pay some bills. Very good. Did we have any unscheduled public comment?
No, sir.
All right, thank you, Diane.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we're going to move to public comment. In our packets, we're having, I'm going to say Ann Pham requesting a reimbursement on the sewer. Obviously, and Diane sent out a supplemental because the reading was so small. And it's on the back of the public comment sheet of what it says. It looks like that she was out the country and overseas, and they found the leak, and it resulted in the sewer bill of being the $1,197.40. The way that we've handled this before, council, and we've seen a few of these come before us, is when we have proof and we've been asked on this, we've always, of course, the water that was treated that spilled or leaked is one thing, but the sewer, since it wasn't going into our system or otherwise, we've always entertained a relief from that monies. So before us is an ask of that 1104.40, and Diane's recommendation is for us to give relief on that fund. So we should go ahead, Diane. Were you gonna say something, Diane?
No.
Okay. So this is under public comment. I know last time we did this, I was a little not nervous, but a little confused because we did make an action item under this public comment for our last one. So I feel that our legal counsel would say that we could do that as well under this public comment. So does somebody want to make a motion?
I would move that we credit this customer $1,104.40 for the sewer portion of the services.
And do I have a second?
I second.
Motion is second. Okay, it's open for discussion. Is there anything that anybody wants to ask Diane about, or just any comments? All right, hearing none, roll call.
Michael Hillman,
Yes.
Scott Pennell,
Yes.
Chuck Harmon,
Yes.
Bob Boland,
Yes.
John Curtis,
Yes.
Art Cacavelli,
Yes.
Jim Clark.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you, council.
All right. We will get back with them and tell them that the council supported that. Our next public comment is from Margaret Smith from the Bee's Knees on requesting a vendor's license in the historic district. Diane sent out the restrictions out of our municipal code about never like this. So Margaret, will you, I'm going to give you 2 minutes to throw your pitch, what you're trying to do, what you want to do, and then the council will have a discussion. Well, this is really public comment. So go ahead and make your pitch. Take yourself off of mute, please.
Mute. Okay, am I there? Wait a minute.
You're just
Are you
too
okay?
close to Mariah. You and Mariah need to separate slightly.
Wait a minute. Can you hear me?
Yes, that's better.
I don't know.
No.
Okay.
Take your cell phone away.
Well, yeah, okay. Well, anyhow, I'm not sure about this restriction that you said Diane sent out, so we didn't get that, but anyway, here it is. We request to approval to obtain a vendor's license as a supplement to our existing business license. And maybe that's not the appropriate way to put it. We want to use an electric hot dog cart to offer hot dogs and brats on buns. And it would be set up in the area in the front of our store on Minor Street. And I've asked for council action on this. And what?
And it's a very professional.
Oh, yeah, and it's a nice cart.
Which we can provide pictures.
Yeah. So I don't know what the ordinances are.
So, let's see, this is where Carmen threw me off. So really under public comment, we should take your public comment and take it to a work session before we make an action on it. So,
Well, I had requested that it be set up today so that you could take action. I thought we were going to be, and Diane assured us that it would be.
okay, then we'll go ahead and discuss it. Council,
I can't hear him.
You can't hear me?
Oh, no, it's on this end.
Okay. So council, in our packets, we have the municipal code about freestanding vendor stand. One of them, I'm getting a lot of feedback on my end. One of the E says may not occupy any area in the historic district except with the express permission from the city council. In the past, we've had others come in and want to set up these same kind of carts. And it always went back to a couple of things. One was always, do we want to change the code for this in the historic district and allow this? The other has been that there's been some business owners in an uproar because people that brought carts in from the outside and set them up didn't pay a water bill, didn't pay an electric bill, didn't pay property taxes. So this is a little bit different. They already have their own building. They do pay a water bill. They do pay their insurance. So they have hard costs to operate their business. One thing that I would ask Diane is, since their business is not a food serving establishment, would that throw up anything that we need to look at and get a license for before we can authorize that?
I would imagine the state would need to do an inspection for food service.
Okay.
What about the county?
County
Yeah,
doesn't
John,
do
I'm
inspections.
reading that. I see that may not serve food unless the vendor cart or other facilities received a current license from the Colorado County Department of Public Health and Environment.
Right.
Now I believe that's J, right? Is that right, Chuck? Letter J may not serve.
Yes.
Right, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so if everybody wants to look back at that, that's J listing. As far as doing it in front of, you're not talking about on the sidewalk, right, Margaret? Unmute yourself.
She did get it.
Okay.
Still muted, Margaret.
There you go. No, try it.
Okay, now am I right?
Yeah.
No, we could have it over across the sidewalk. It depends on what's required. We can do it in the area that we've been permitted now to expand, or within, right up against the building, you know, where the restaurants have, like next to us, the deli has all some of their tables and stuff. So I don't know what the requirements are.
If I may, Margaret, under D, it's may not occupy any sidewalk. So it would appear
Say
to
that
me
again.
under D, it says may not occupy any sidewalk. So
Oh, okay.
I think probably out in that area, if I may, probably would be more appropriate.
Right, and that's what we envisioned.
You have that encroachment agreement already in place? You have one with the city, Margaret?
Say that?
You have an encroachment agreement?
Oh,
already?
yes. Yep,
Okay.
yep. We've been
So-
trying to get out there, but we're concerned about our canopy being up and da-da-da, because we just got back, so.
Okay.
You know, we're still working out details on how we're gonna set up out there for just even our retail I'm referring to.
Okay, I need some conversation from council, some thoughts.
First of all, I think it's a really neat idea. And being an established business, paying all these other bills to support the community. Yeah, I'm getting the feedback too. Anyway, the only question I would have is, Margaret, have you contacted the county health people yet? They're the ones who really have the authority in the city.
Well, the county won't. This will be the state. The county does no longer issue those, so that would be the state.
Yeah, it's a state. Yeah, I know it's a state license and permit, but I thought that with the expanded county health effort that they were getting back into that business. But either state or county, it's not the city. I know that.
Well, I know now. I don't know if this is going to muddy the water or not, but like in Pueblo, when I opened up a licensed bed and breakfast a few years ago, they just had it was the health department came and inspected my kitchen and all. So that was the, I don't know, Pueblo County Health Department, maybe it was.
Right, some counties have their own health department, or several counties go together and form a district health department. And in Clear Creek traditionally has not done that. They have sometimes had their own health inspectors, but it's still a state license no matter what. And to me, that's really the only real question I have.
And I don't think, I mean, that's not an issue. We just need
Yeah,
to know,
just need to
be
do it.
guided.
Yeah. The food is not prepackaged. I assume you would actually be handling the hot dogs and the buns and so on. Wouldn't it
Yes.
be prepackaged? Okay.
But,
Yeah,
but the condiments we would have packaged.
okay.
Any other thoughts, council, John, Art?
Mayor, I feel that it would be appropriate, especially out in the new expanded area.
I have a couple of questions for Margaret. This is an electric cart, right? Okay, how are you going to get the power to it? How are you going to run your cord?
Just leave your mute off.
Margaret,
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Well, from the top of the canopy over, so we would have to have something that would keep it at like at least 8-foot height or something and down. The other thing was we could get a small generator if that was not acceptable.
Okay, yeah, and this is out of my purview, but don't forget, you know, there are going to be neighbors out there, and I'm not quite sure a gas generator is conducive to, you know, the other businesses. But I do
it would
like,
be really small, of course.
well, they still create noise and exhaust. Even the small Honda motors. And I'll be honest with you, that is out of my purview. My biggest concern is to ensure that there isn't a trip hazard from the cord. Whether or not there's a code issue in, you know, running an extension cord from the top of your canopy or your facade down to the card itself. I mean, that might be a different issue.
That would have.
Kelly would have to approve it.
Is that a safe built? Is that a safe built
Wait a minute, you were
question?
muted. Can you hear me?
I've been cut off too. It would be more Kelly Bailey.
Oh, hit the.
Correct, yeah, that would be
Let me
a
have that.
chief inspection and question. So what we need to do as
Here.
is,
Okay.
is decide if this is something that with the proper.
I can't hear anything.
Well,
Hello?
I'm mute. Can you hear me? Can everybody else hear me?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
now
yeah.
you're back. I haven't been able to hear anything for the past whatever discussion. After Chris finished, like I said, we would try to be overhead. So what went on after that?
So what would have to happen is, it sounds like it would probably be on an extension cord. This would have to be approved by the fire authority. Fire authority would come in and look at it and make sure that can happen per the fire. Can you still hear me?
Okay, I heard something about we'd have to have it looked by for fire code.
Are you and Mariah in the same room on two different computers?
Yes.
That's
what's
the
causing the problem.
Shut one down.
All right.
Y'all gonna have to sign out.
Shut me down. I'll get off. I'm leaving.
Good.
Thank you, Mariah. Now can everybody?
Of course, I probably won't be able to.
Much better.
There we go. So
Yeah,
Margaret,
I can't.
said
My audio.
the
I
fire
can't
department.
get my audio to.
You can't hear me, Margaret?
Can't. Oh, don't. Ouch. I can't get it.
Is your volume up? Well, council, while they're trying to get back on, we need to discuss if this is something that we would allow. Would it take, maybe Diane can answer this question for us. Would it take a modification of the code, or how would we go about doing that?
What do you mean a modification of the code?
Well, I mean, our municipal codes, I guess it says with the okay of the permission of the city council, it'd be fine. So I want to hear some more thoughts from city council.
So what I'm wondering, Mike, is if we allow this one, how many other ones are going to be coming out to ask for the same permission?
And council has denied people in the past.
I can't get.
Are we going to allow so many, or are we going to put a limit on them, or?
I didn't see anywhere in the code that there was a moratorium on how many we would allow or anything like that.
Mayor,
Mr.
if
Mayor?
I may, under I, may not operate within 500 feet of another vending stand.
Yeah, that regulation's in there, but I'm just
missing.
you don't have a cap that only 3 of these can happen and no more. But that I could be from 500 from another vending stand. 500 feet, that's quite a distance, isn't it?
Yeah, so that would limit them. That alone should put a limit on them.
Right.
Yeah. Any other thoughts?
I think John had a point that Safe Built might have to be involved. I know it's a temporary wiring, but I think Safe Built might have to be involved also.
Unless it's something that they're just going to plug into the wall and run an extension cord, and I could probably see that the fire chief would say that can't happen. Not sure. I can't speak for him.
Yeah, but extension cord, you got rain, you got all that water spraying around. That'd be my concern, shorts, shocks.
And as a electrician, there might be a certain amount of amperage that's required, and where they're plugging it in, you don't know if that's capable of the proper load required.
Right.
There's not a fire hydrant that I know that's 10 feet. I don't think we've got a fire hydrant in that area.
Hello?
Yes, are you there?
Oh, finally back. I'm back on Mariah's computer. I don't know. I haven't heard anything in the past 5 minutes or so.
Okay, I'm glad we can
Where
hear
we at?
you can hear us now, right, Mariah?
Yes, and you can don't hear everything else. Okay. Thank you.
Yep. So right now we're discussing council's wishes to allow this, so you can move forward with the licensings and things like that. That's going to have to take place along with the endeavor. There's been some question about the load on is it going to carry the proper load to operate the cart? Will the fire chief or Safe Built okay the way that you're hooking it up, because it is a fire thing? Chief Malenka had a quote or a statement that said that the gas won't work, and that was kind of the first.
Oh, okay. Yeah, got that. We hadn't thought about that. Thank you.
So
okay, so the point is to basically go ahead and apply. I think what you're saying is do that, but there'll be follow-up with inspections from the fire chief and health department.
Well, you will have to get a food service license.
Okay. Is that available from Diane or online?
I'm sure you can do that online.
Okay.
Or like when I got here, we had our county did those inspections. They don't do that anymore. So
okay.
They're from the state, and I'm not familiar with the requirements that they have for you.
Okay.
For a cart, that's completely something that I've never.
Then a kitchen and all of that.
That's much different. Yeah.
Food service license from the state. We'll look online. But the inspection from the state. Okay.
They need inspections from Safe Built, and our fire authority obviously is local, and they come out. And what I would do first maybe Diane, correct me if you have any other idea, is we always have Safe Built that will come out and talk to you first before you do anything. And they're here on Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Like Dan?
Yeah,
Dan Wester?
Is it Diane, that comes out?
Yes, well, his inspector.
Yeah, his
Okay. All right. We can do that.
So that's where I would start. But first, before we get there, I need council to kind of give some more thoughts about, is this something that we allow to happen and allow to do in our historic district?
Yes, I was thinking about that. It seems to me that 500-foot limit was obviously an effort to discourage vendors' carts downtown, since that's nearly 2 blocks long. And it seems to me rethinking the entire thing with a pedestrian mall, if you will, or a marketplace down there, that one of the amenities in operations like that is to have kiosks and vendors' carts and so on around that causes much more activity. And it's a huge plus. And I think we need to revisit that when we're talking about that overall mall experience. That's all I have.
Okay. Anybody, any other comments from council?
You're just planning on them purchasing a hot dog and kind of eating it there and walk. I mean, you're not going to have seating as well.
No.
Okay.
No, because then that gets in. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Because you know, I said, do we need to have little tables? And then I thought that gets into that whole sanitation of their tables, and I don't know. I think that opens up a big can of worms.
It's to go.
This would be just get it, we bag it up for you or whatever, give you your condiments in a package and go.
I think that we all should. So I think we should also need to talk with public health, you know, because this is all new to us with this pandemic going on.
Right.
To make sure there. So Andy and I can reach out tomorrow and ask that question and your take on that. I guess what we need to figure out is if council is in agreement and we have a consensus about allowing this to happen, so we can start the next steps to assure that it's being done properly. All the licensing, all the fire and building department have weighed in on it. That's where we kind of need to get right now. So Mariah and Margaret can start moving forward on their plans.
Okay, and no food. I mean, I can envision, because of the way the cart is, it has lids on everything, so nothing would be sitting out, you know.
Okay. I don't know if this really needs to be a formal vote. Why don't we just get a consensus with a thumbs up or thumbs down, and that will give Mariah and Margaret their direction on how to move forward.
Mayor, if I could, I think that council does need to make a formal vote to memorialize it.
Okay, then we can do that. We did it on the other one, so we can on that. So do I have a motion?
I would move that we approve the cart as long as it can comply with the fire marshal's approval and safe built approval. Oh, and of course, the state's health department license.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Motion is second. Okay, last chance for discussion. All right, we need roll call.
Michael Hillman,
Yes.
Scott Pennell,
Yes.
Chuck Harmon,
Yes.
Bob Boland,
Yes.
John Curtis,
Yes.
Art Cacavelli,
Yes.
Jim Clark.
Yes.
All right, there you go, Margaret. Y'all can start moving forward. Stay in
Thank you.
and to make sure that Diane will have the answers to any question that you might have.
Right.
And let's just make sure that we get everything in place in a good way, and good luck on it.
Okay, and of course, we want to make sure we're in full compliance with everything, safety, health, and all of that. It's tough.
All
right
right,
now.
thank you very
Okay,
much.
but this was an idea that formulated way before last fall, actually. So, okay. Okay, well, I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Margaret, Mariah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck.
All right, with that, we don't have anything from planning, community development. We're gonna move down to our resolutions. And Bob Boland will set out on the resolution 19 and be a non-voting member of that. All right.
Yeah, staff report is first, or right into part B.
I'm not quite sure what staff report is.
Mayor, the staff report was provided in the work session.
Oh, okay. All right.
And it's in your packet as well.
See you later.
All right, I need a motion on resolution 19.
I'll move to approve resolution number 19, series 2020, a resolution approving the Virginia Canyon Mountain Park BCMP Master Plan Addendum number 1.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second, discussion.
Who was that second?
John Curtis.
Thank you.
All right, discussion. Hearing none, roll call.
Michael Hillman,
Yes.
Scott Pennell,
Yes.
Doug Harmon,
Yes.
Bob Boland. I'm sorry, John Curtis,
Yes.
Art Cacavelli,
Yes.
Jim Clark.
Yes.
All right, now we can move Bob back in. Bob Boland? Bob? You want to try to call him, John? Dan, bring Bob back in, please. All right, Bob, welcome back. All right, we're going to go to our ordinance second reading. Do I have a motion?
I'll move to approve ordinance number 8, 2020, an ordinance amending chapter 16 of the Idaho Springs Municipal Code concerning nuisances to address the attraction of wildlife by garbage and rubbish.
Do I have a second?
A second.
Who was the second?
Art.
Yeah.
Okay, motion and a second, discussion.
Yeah, I talked to Waste Management. They do not provide, just trash cans provide any bear-proof protection. If you put anything on it, the drivers have the option whether to unlock it or unstrap it or do whatever they want. And they can refuse to pick up the trash. My concern is people don't have either the knowledge or the money to put on trash cans a bear-proof system.
Okay.
Not very fair to the customers.
I like the program. I understand it. It's good. It's just there's just people that aren't going to be able to comply. And it's like my renters, if they empty the trash, they don't do it. I mean, my renters never put those bungee cords back on. So if I'm not here, I don't know if I'm going to get fined or not. You know.
Chief, you got anything to weigh in on that with us?
I think we need to set our priorities. You know, bears are attracted to accessible trash, and you know, there's always the possibility of the bear human encounter. You want to reduce that. On top of the nuisance of neighbors having to pick up their other neighbor's trash because an animal got into it. So we certainly have to weigh it. Waste management is not the only disposal service. There's also Doyle, and I believe Timberline is still here.
Right.
So it's a competitive market. If they want the business, then, you know, they may have to make the concessions of doing it. The mechanisms, and actually Doyle actually came up with the means of doing it. It's just a pin that you'd use on a standard trailer hitch, and 2 holes drilled into the container. Other people have used the you know, the tie down straps with the ratchet. Some people have put lock hasps and just put a clip in there. So I think that I would be reluctant to let the sanitation companies dictate public safety. If they want the market share, they're going to have to adjust.
It would seem
I
like
agree.
if you're going to provide that service in Bear Country, you need to accommodate those customers, because those customers are everyone.
I agree, Bob. Yes, sir.
I'm looking at the ordinance and I don't think there's anything that says that it be bear proof. I don't think there's anyone made that's bear proof, but bear resistant or animal resistant.
I think we have to
From
use.
what I am,
I'm sorry. I think we have to
From what-
use a little, you know, a little flexibility. I think we want people to do their best to reduce the opportunity for bears getting into these containers. I know that a lot of the commercial dumpsters have locking mechanisms that don't necessarily require a padlock. Those, of course, are used to keep, you know, other non-tenants from using the dumpsters or non-patrons of businesses. But that padlock can be replaced with a snap link, a carabiner. And, you know, it does take a little modification of the larger plastic garbage cans, but it's really, all it requires is a cordless drill and a little bit of hardware.
Well, and you know, you talked about Doyle. I own no stock in Doyle. I don't even know the people, but it's a one-time charge of $10, and you get that particular dumpster for all your garbage. So you only pay the $10 upcharge for the one that's bear proof once, and then you pay the regular fee throughout the rest of the year. So it's not a great financial burden to someone who wants to protect the, you know, do it that way.
I am looking at the ordinance and it says wildlife resistant dumpster enclosure, a fully enclosed structure consisting of either 4 sides and a roof or a cover, or 4 sides of sufficient height, design, and construction to prevent access by wildlife. There again, it's resistant.
So again, you're gonna have to build a structure around all the trash cans?
I think by structure, they mean the trash can.
No, okay.
Okay, any more discussion? All right, let's send this to a vote. Roll call.
Michael Hillman,
Yes.
Scott Pennell,
Yes.
Chuck Harmon,
Yes.
Bob Boland,
He says yes.
Sorry, I was on mute. Yes.
John Curtis,
Yes.
Art Cacavelli,
Yes.
Jim Clark.
yes.
All right. That will go into law in 30 days. Is that correct, Diane?
About 30 days and 1 week,
30 days and 1 week.
approximately.
So that gives us an opportunity to do a educational campaign and get it out there to folks. You know, most folks that live here are recognize that the bears were here first. So I think it's going to be very palatable to people. And I want to thank council for supporting the measure.
Thanks, Chief. John, will you get that out on our website and Facebook page, and let's just start and let them know the time limit on that? 30 days plus 1 week. That'll go into effect. All right, thank you. And we'll move down now to our department heads reports. Andy, you're up.
Mayor and council, you have my report before you with 2 requests for action.
All right. Do I have a motion?
I would move to authorize Public Works Superintendent John Bordoni to sign the notice of award to Fisher Construction Inc. for $4 million for construction Project 2 for improvements to the water resource reclamation facility and to issue the notice to proceed when bonding and contract requirements are finalized.
All right, do I have a second?
Second.
All right, I believe that was Bob. Okay, discussion. Any questions that we may need to answer or have Michael answer before we take a vote on this? Not hearing none. Roll call.
Michael Hillman,
Yes.
Scott Pennell,
Yes.
Chuck Harmon,
Yes.
Bob Boland,
Yes.
John Curtis,
Yes.
Art Cacavelli,
Yes.
Jim Clark.
Yes.
Right, motion passes. All right, and our second action item for city administrator, we'll have a motion.
I would move to approve the proposal from Lorraine Trotter for professional management solutions in the amount of $105 an hour as needed / requested to serve as the city's interim finance officer.
We'll have a second.
Second.
Motion and a second on the table. All right, discussion.
Did we get any other proposals?
Andy, you can answer of how we took action on this and why we did it this way.
Sure. We wanted to get someone in fairly quickly. We did work with Lorraine a few years ago at the city here. She did some financial forecasting for us. She did very good work during that limited project. And again, this is for an interim until we get a new finance officer on board. So she comes highly recommended.
Have we advertised for a finance officer yet?
We expect to get that out this week.
Any other questions? Roll call.
Michael Hillman,
Yes.
Scott Pennell,
Yes.
Chuck Harmon,
Yes.
Bob Boland,
Yes.
John Curtis,
Yes.
Art Cacavelli,
Yes.
Jim Clark.
Yes.
All right, we'll move down to city clerk, Diane.
Mayor and council, I have my staff report for your review with one request for action. If council remembers the library district coming before you in a work session, it was back in May, asking for permission to do their story book walk. And I reached out to Carmen and came up with this encroachment, a revocable encroachment agreement, and looking for council's vote tonight.
All right, do I have a motion?
I'll move to approve
Go ahead,
the
Scott.
permit for the use of a city property by the Clear Creek County Library District as part of the Once Upon a Trail experimental storybook project.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Last chance for discussion. I will say, I think this is a brilliant idea. I think it's going to be good. I hope it works well, that we can do it in the future, and for the library district to put forth the effort to have things like that for not only our youth to participate in, but us adults as well. So that's all I have to say. Anybody else?
Yeah, that was a really good submission. I appreciate it, and you sticking with us all this time too.
You actually thought we were supposed to be doing this on the work session, and I was getting my phone blown up by Cameron, so she's been waiting. Thanks, Holly, for waiting patiently. Okay, let's do roll call.
Michael Hillman,
Yes.
Scott Pennell,
Yes.
Chuck Harmon,
Yes.
Bob Boland,
Yes.
John Curtis,
Yes.
Art Cacavelli.
Yes.
All right, any other questions for Diane?
Hey, I didn't get to vote.
What about
How
Jim?
about Jimmy?
You forgot somebody.
Jim Clark.
Yes.
Thanks, Jim. All
No
right,
problem.
let's move down to the PD chief.
Mayor and council, I will refer you to my report and I have no request for action.
All right. Does anybody have any questions for the chief?
Chief, I do, if I may, please, sir.
Yeah, Jim.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right. So, Chief, I've had the people that own the Thomas property down below contact me, curious about the vandalism and the arson attempt down on Old Budweiser Hill and the storage facilities where the mortuary and stuff are.
Mm-hmm. We investigated that, Jim. It's an area that we don't frequent. The guys have been put on directed patrol. We have no reason to believe that it was anything other than or anyone involved other than maybe some of our youth. Some of the damage, one of the damage that was complained was to an ATV, which has obviously been sitting there for years, as evidenced by the deterioration of the vinyl. We actually had concerns about the safety and security of the area. There are cameras in the area, but they didn't capture that. So we've actually, code enforcement is reaching out to them. We are going to discuss ways in which they can make it safer. As far as the arson goes, I was unaware that there was an attempted arson, but there was some vandalism and some forced entry into the trailers themselves.
Yeah, there certainly was. So, well, thank you for answering that. And
yeah,
hopefully
and I don't,
they,
in the event other people are listening, I had a conversation with one of the other properties. We really like, and it makes the community safer when people take some responsibility for the security of the property. You're a perfect example in the security you have on your property. This area is not easily accessible or easily viewable because the manner in which the trailers are positioned creates these huge voids. So I think part of it is the reaching out to property owners such as this one and encouraging them to actually be more proactive in the security of their own property, which makes it a safer neighborhood. But that said, the officers have been alerted that this is an area that we do not patrol as frequently, and that was added to our directed patrol list.
thank you for staying on top of it, Chief. I appreciate it.
All right, thanks. Any other questions for Chief? All right, thanks, Chief. Keep up the good work. John, Public Works, what do you have for us?
Mayor and council, I refer you to my staff report. I do have 2 requests for action. One to sell an old John Deere skid steer, and the other one to repair Highway 103 water line.
Okay. All right. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve. Oh, go ahead, Scott.
$511 to Fisher Construction for the repair of the Highway 103 water line from line item 5472-7320.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion. Is everybody familiar with what that line is? Which line we're talking about on 103?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Can I have roll call?
Who seconded that, please?
I think it was me, but I'm not sure.
I'll put you down.
I don't know.
Michael Hillman,
Yes.
Scott Pennell,
Yes.
Doug Harmon,
Yes.
Bob Boland,
Yes.
John Curtis,
Yes.
Art Cacavelli,
Yes.
Jim Clark.
Yes.
All right. Our second motion. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve sale of 1999 John Deere skid steer loader on the website govdeals.com.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion. For John.
I'm just curious, John, that thing move forward or reverse on its own?
It will not move right now.
Wow, okay. And the reason why I ask is I don't know how that gov deals work. I just wondered if we were offering any assistance in loading.
No, it typically, when anything is sold or purchased on that, it's up to the buyer to come and remove it, whatever method they have to.
Okay.
All right, any other questions? Okay, I need roll call.
Michael Hillman,
Yes.
Scott Pennell,
Yes.
Chuck Harmon,
Yes.
Bob Boland,
Yes.
John Curtis,
Yes.
Art Cacavelli,
Yes.
Jim Clark.
Yes.
All right, I'm gonna go down to, thank you, John. Does anybody else have any questions for John? All right, as all of our department heads, keep up the good work. Thank you all so much for all your hard work. Under committee reports, I believe that John Curtis had something he would like to do from a committee report standpoint. You want to talk a couple of seconds about that, John?
Yep. Upper Clear Creek Water Association, Aqua, was given a presentation by Argo on their water wastewater system. They asked me if the city has approved it. I said it hasn't been approached. Argo has not approved, give it to council yet for any discussion or approval. I don't know what the staff has been involved in it for GABA. They said they were working with JBA, but I don't know. So they would like the city to comment on it and relay their comments to Aqua on the waste, especially the wastewater system up there. I can't get into details until the rest of the board or the staff knows about it.
So what I would like to do is get some more information about that to see what concerns or issues that Aqua is putting up, just so it helps us understand what's going on, what they're thinking. Of course, it's John Curtis is a professional water and wastewater guy, so that helps us some. But we also need to understand where Aqua's coming from and what we need to kind of keep an eye on. So I think we ought to get a work session together on that, Andy, so we can talk about that.
Yeah, I'd like JBA to be there.
I haven't been privy to any of those conversations. The work that I think we've been, or the involvement that we've had with Argo has been primarily on sort of the development review. So I certainly would like to know more too, as to whether or not this is just a pre-treatment system or whether it's a system that would actually fall under the purview of the county or even.
Actually, they've put an application into the state, and they've got some PELs and stuff like that from them. I do have some questions about the treatment, and so does an Aqua. The type of discharge they're asking for. They're asking for not really a discharge report, but a reuse irrigation. They did talk about getting agreements with the city on treating their wastewater, hauling it down, and also the sludge, which
Not aware of that. So yeah, it would be good to set up participate in a work session and any background information that we can get, we can start digging into it and be prepared for that.
I received it from their Dropbox. I give it to Andy or Jonathan and forward it to you if you want.
Yeah, I just realized it seems like I'm not even looking at you because I've got two screens here. I'm going to move you over to the right screen so I can look at you. Yeah, if you can forward it through, I would love to have a look and sort of start thinking about what impacts there might be to the city, and if what they're proposing makes sense, and any questions that we might raise.
Right. You want me to send it to you, Andy? Okay.
All right. Thanks, John. What we didn't talk about, and real quick, if everybody took a look at our sales tax, we're down around $40,000 from last year. That is definitely a hit to us. Not as bad as I might have been expecting for May, but it is $40,000 down. So we'll keep an eye on that as we continue to move forward through the summer months and see how that impacts our budget and how it impacts the city. The last thing I want to do is part with, as everybody should know by now, Sandy Bronson has passed away, and you know, she's going to be a huge loss to our office, to our community. Her husband made a quote that Idaho Springs was a second family to her, and I'm talking about staff and council and everybody that works for the city. So you know, that was very touching. On Saturday, I don't know if everybody got an invite, but you can RSVP to go to her memorial or a celebration of life service, and it's going to be over at Gold Digger Field. And so, John, can you send out that information so if anybody wants to attend, that they can get their RSVP done?
I will do that.
Okay, I appreciate that. All right, with that, without any other thing, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Well, wait, have we started any recruiting on the 2 open positions? We spoke about that a few weeks ago to recruit for the planning manager and the sewer area. We're gonna do our own recruiting for those 2 positions.
Right.
We hope to get all those out this week. We're a little bit behind in those, but I know we had a couple changes to make to one job description, but should be able to get those out this week. So we're gonna have 3 recruitments going at once.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Right. Anything else?
Mayor?
Yes.
2 more things really fast. I'm sorry, but I was approached by, you know, constituents in my ward over these. Well, I probably should have brought this up with the chief. Chief, parking tickets in and around the 13th and Idaho area for employees working other in the food industry. I would assume that's taken care of. Yes.
13th in Idaho. Jim, I haven't seen any of those tickets come across my desk. Are they our tickets or are they interstate's tickets?
I already took care of it. It was an interstate ticket that was incorrectly given into a business owner, and their vehicle had not been registered properly, but we were able to take care of it and we got them all taken care of. So they're straight right now.
Awesome. Thank you for that. And my very last thing, the empty lot, and maybe Bob, you can help me with this, or some of the people that have been around a lot longer than me. There's one empty lot at 2nd and like the 239 exit right across from Bill Mayor's house. Is that now city owned? It's
privately
given
owned.
to the city by Helen Buck.
It's privately owned.
It is city owned.
Privately owned.
Oh, it is. Who put the dog park or pole up with the dog cleanup station in? Does anybody know that?
Maybe somebody got tired of all their dogs pooping in their lots.
Well, understandably, but it seems like an open invitation to bring your dogs there and do nothing that's maintained. But the problem is they're irresponsible about doing it. I just wondered if it was the city's or not. If it's private property, it's a moot point. So I just was unsure of that. So thank you.
We put the dog station up. I'm sorry, Mayor. We put the dog station up based on numerous complaints from neighbors in the area about people not cleaning up after their dogs. So it's right on.
It seems like an invitation for them to be there, yet it's not. I don't know. Maybe we should take the thing down.
That's fine with me. We can do that.
How long has it been up? Is it working?
If it's private property, Well, here's the thing, if we take it down.
Well, the weeds are waist deep. I don't know how anybody complained about it anyway.
Were you gonna say something?
Yeah, I just want to let Jim know that's kind of a circular problem over there. Code enforcement has has been in communication with that property owner on several issues. The height of the weeds last year, there was a hazard tree that they were ordered to take down. It's my understanding that the property owner doesn't live in the area. We can, of course, we can reach out once again. He's doing his rounds. He's already reached out to other property owners that need to cut their weeds down. In reference to the use of the property, if it was posted no trespassing, we can automatically enforce it. But absent that, we have limitations without the authority of the property owner. But even if we did catch somebody on the property who wasn't authorized, we can't take enforcement action unless the property's actually fenced or posted. So you bring up a really good point. I'll ask Zach to look in on that property owner once again and see if we can work, what we can work out and what their wishes are. And what if they have objections to people bringing their dogs onto the property. Otherwise, we'll ask them to post it no trespassing.
Much appreciated. Thank you, sir.
Of course.
I've got one more question. July 15th is Wednesday. Are we going to be excluded from using the area where the park's going to go up, our medical building? Originally, I thought we just had till the 15th of July. I was wondering if that's been modified.
It has not been modified. Andy, can we reach out to the county tomorrow to see if they're going to be mobilizing? Because that was the idea that they would be mobilizing equipment over to that site. I'm not sure that they're ready to do that. And I'm sure if they're not ready to do that, I'm sure the county would extend that agreement with us for a few more weeks.
Yes, I'll make that inquiry.
All right. Thank you, Andy. All right. Anything else?
It's also, you got to file your taxes if you haven't by Wednesday, guys. Just thought I'd tell you. Trump just called me and told me to remind you guys.
And what did you say back to him?
I said I don't speak that language.
All right. It is 04. Meeting adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
All right. Thanks, y'all. Have a good evening. Be safe.
Thanks, everyone. Good night.
Good night, all.
Right.